Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of Build to Impact, produced by Varmeta. In this podcast, we'll sit down with founders, builders, and innovators, talk about their bold ideas and how to turn it into real-world projects and bring values to the world. My name is Frank Lê. I'm head of growth at Varmeta. We are a team based in Vietnam. We provide consultancy and development services, and we specialize in blockchain and AI adoptions for enterprises across APAC, the US, and Middle East. And we have here Jeffrey Tchui, Vice President and Head of Ecosystem APAC.
It's great to be here. Thanks so much for having me.
Great. So could you please introduce about yourself, your work at Hedera?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I am with the Hedera Foundation. Hedera is a layer 1 protocol in DLT. We have a very strong enterprise background. So about myself, I lead growth and ecosystem development in Asia Pacific. What that really means is entering new markets, making sure that the technology, the infrastructure, and all of the resources that we have developed as the Hedera ecosystem are best kind of shared with the region. Simply put, we bring commerce, community, and capital to builders, partners, and other ecosystem entities. I cover a lot of different roles, you would say, especially growing markets in Asia Pacific. Every country, every jurisdiction has its own state of its journey in the Web3 adoption. So some will require a little bit more policy and government work. Others will have frameworks and laws and infrastructure already in place. It's about finding the right business and commercial opportunities. Some jurisdictions have very strong talent, and it's about nurturing that talent. And I'm very excited to actually be and have the opportunity to be in this region to grow Hedera.
Great. So from your perspective, why Vietnam has become your priority, and I think Southeast Asia also, right? For Hedera, global roadmap right now. Can you share more about it?
I think Vietnam has always been very imperative to any economic cycle. I think Vietnam geographically is located, situated, extremely ideal, having an entire coastline from north to south exposing to the ocean, which allows a lot of traditional trade to happen. But as the new markets become borderless and digital, the physical and the virtual assets have to mix. And so I think Vietnam has a very large exposure to those physical assets to begin with. Just in its situation, situated in Southeast Asia, very strategic. You have a very young population, extremely talented, able to speak multiple languages. English, Vietnamese, Japanese, Korean. It really depends on which part and which industry you're in. And just an entirely very strong work ethic, I would say. The government itself is structured very similar to some jurisdictions with clear plans every 5 years or so, which allows for quite enough clarity when it comes to new technologies such as AI and blockchain to have some sort of planning. Right. I really also believe that one other aspect of Vietnam is just the culture. I think it draws a lot of international interest and talent. There are many visitors that come to Vietnam, if not one of the top destinations in Southeast Asia in terms of tourism. But that tourism from just retail tourism is not moving into digital nomads. Digital nomads are basically the backbone of a project-based work in the Web3 industry. So all of these different things combined, strong talent, interest from international communities, and now government support and focus into having Vietnam become a hub for virtual assets is all of the components and recipes for success.
I see. Like we have been together. I mean, Varmeta, you and Hedera, we have been together for I think quite a long time.
Yeah.
And we have been doing some projects together. I think most recently with the an open source toolkit for developers. So I think we both want to make it more in Vietnam, and I'm curious about like what do you think the key factors for some local execution partners like Varmeta? So what would be the key factors that you're expecting to for them that they can like join the ecosystem and do something meaningful together?
So I would say, just to clarify, Hedera is a very large ecosystem with many different entities that serves different purposes. Right, we have a entity that focuses mainly on technology engineering and supporting the network. We have another entity that provides ecosystem development support and growth, the foundation, and then we have the actual governing council and a couple of sister organizations that either focus on research and or ventures work. And because of all of these different let's say focus areas to build a proper ecosystem, the needs of a protocol like Hedera have changed over the years. And to answer your question, I'd say flexibility and diversity is probably the most important aspect, because there will be protocols, foundations, and whatnot that have different requirements as they enter new markets. Some may just want to bring their technology into Vietnam, for example. Others will want to build a presence, a local entity here. Others may want to focus more on enterprise work, retail work, exposure to liquidity, or even work with governments and public sector use cases, I should say. So it's about knowing, as a provider of technology support, go-to-market support locally in Vietnam, it's about knowing what value you will add to that mission of that protocol or that ecosystem, and then honing in on building that expertise. We've had a very interesting relationship. I started very early on as a builder, technically. And working with Hedera is made up of up to 39 corporate node operators. One of those node operators actually was a project that I worked on. They built a tokenization platform. And this is how we actually engaged very, very early on in, I believe, 2021, most likely. And throughout our relationship, I had moved on to the Swiss entity, the Ventures Plus Advisory group. And we worked on a couple of projects there. And then now under the foundation, working very closely with your team to do that more focused market development and growth in Vietnam is basically how our evolution occurred. And it's because you stayed so flexible throughout the process. From working on projects to working on very specific mandates, now to shifting to more, I would say, more strategic activities, right? And I think that's a good model for your peers if Vietnam wants to be like this hub of servicing protocols.
I see. So I think now we can talk more specific about like the works between us, between Varmeta and Hedera Foundation. So for the first use case I'm mentioning, so about the open source toolkits for developer enablement. So Varmeta has developed an open source toolkit, including a blockchain-based learning management system on Hedera. So Jeff, from Hedera's perspective, how do these open source efforts support onboarding the next generation of builders?
Every protocol strives to be, community first. I hope, and to make that a reality, open source commitment is extremely important. That's where you get the trust, and that's what allows your developers to contribute and commit to the development of that ecosystem. And so we have produced through our expertise and our previous kind of grant investments, open source toolkits in real world asset tokenization studio, in the stablecoin studio, in the AI studio, in our ESG and Guardian toolkit, if you want to call it, our entire platform, and a couple others as well. NFT studio that we don't talk about too much, but it's there. And the idea is this is good for you to start, but you still need to finish. And hence why working with Varmeta and other partners that we have globally is to be that last mile completion for localization, specifically for regional compliance requirements, local tastes and preferences, and local language support, to be honest. That's also very, very important to us. So when it comes to your remark earlier about having, let's say, an open source education platform, community first also means talent first, right. Builder first. And at the end of the day, the foundation is here to support builders, developers, and certification of talent is probably number one and paramount to us, is because that is the foundational building block for us to give tools to these engineers to build great products, great solutions, great modules to contribute back to the community. And so hence why, working with you on creating that certification platform was a very rewarding experience.
So we play at a bridge connecting Hedera Foundation with Vietnam local growth through programs like Web3 Harbors, Builder Community, and your participation in IFC in Da Nang and Ho Chi Minh City. So what would be your view about the next growth in Vietnam? How would we look like?
Look.
With the help of these programs.
Every market requires a lot of due diligence, right? That's why we have local partners like yourself to help us as a guiding post. New markets can be very noisy, and turning that noise into music is always a difficult exercise. And so, as you said, working with industry associations, Hedera ecosystem is quite involved in Asia Pacific with a couple. Where GDF, GBBC, Web3 Harbor, and a couple of others as well, Singapore FinTech Association. And I think it's really important that we leverage those local industry associations to really understand the landscape. Then the next phase is to actually go and work with local partners who are actually engaged in schemes. So whether it's in Hong Kong and it's inside the sandboxes, or any of the pilot programs, or working with the local, let's say, accelerator entities such as Science Park and Cyberport in the Web3 POC schemes that they have. These are different ways of engagement. And replicating that level of interaction in Vietnam is also very important to not only the foundation's APAC strategy, but also for our community. We do have a significant amount of interest coming from local Vietnam and Vietnamese-speaking engineers. Having access to the foundation or having access to the Hedera ecosystem has always been a challenge in the past. And so we're reconciling that this past year or two, and then also focusing more moving into 2026. Vietnam as a growth market, ready to adopt virtual assets and digital assets, and needing the infrastructure with local partners is one reason why we're so actively focused in making sure that this is successful. And then through those relationships, the IFCs, the industry associations, I think that's the right approach.
Yeah, talking about the landscape, not only the works with the open source toolkits for builders, we also have Hedera Foundation to connect and work with local partners and local communities via programs like Builders, Community, and the participation of Hedera Foundation in the IFC in Da Nang, in Ho Chi Minh City. And Jeff, do you think like what we should like doing in the next, maybe next year, in the next 3 years to make it a better community? I think with the co-work between the government, the community, the builders, and overseas and local partners.
Yeah, it's all about incentives, right? My approach is always build the pie before you carve it up as big as you can. I find sometimes that it's a winner takes all approach with some technology companies. Setting the right KPIs, having the right expectations, having the right incentives that keep everybody engaged, and those. The formula is not too difficult. It's what if I do something and you do something, we're both better off doing it together, right?
Right.
And then you just multiply that more and more and more. So it takes that kind of honest conversation in the very beginning. If you're a bank, if you're a financial services provider, if you're a blockchain protocol, if you're a custody, OTC, or if you're some form of a technology platform, it's really sitting together and having those open conversations. Not about what I want, it's about what we can achieve. And having it in a safe environment like an industry association, which I've learned with policy and government support in an incubated environment, right? Like a sandbox, or sorry, I should say like an IFC, but then in a safe place like a sandbox, will have let's say that longer lasting effect. And so it's really about coming up with all these different ways of piecing win-win scenarios together,
Right.
instead of figuring out how can I extract the most value from this opportunity.
So taking as much value as possible from this opportunity, I think this is a golden era for like blockchain adoption in Vietnam. What would be your advice for like local corps and banks? I think we have been meeting with some of them, and I think they feel very positive about this time. And I think not just the regional trend with the institutional adoption, but also when it comes to Vietnam, I think all corps and banks, they are become like they really want to build something with the support from the government, with support from like overseas supporters like Hedera, and with the already like tech talents right now. But what would be your advice for them they can get as much values right now?
I think the best way to extract value, to benefit, Vietnam is I guess adopting and maturing to its next phase of infrastructure adoption at a time where many other jurisdictions have already gone through the learning pains. So it's about really being open to learn from other jurisdictions' mistakes, as well as being very open to partner first and not build first. I think there's a tendency in traditional maybe Web 2 business models to own all of the IP, to maintain control over information.
Right.
And that is what generates a premium for your products and services. In Web 3, those primitives are not aligned. They're not the same. And it will take some education, some time, some adaptation for these large companies in Vietnam, conglomerates, to really understand that. But they have, I've said this many times, but they have the most to gain from proper execution with all of the key learnings from before. I would encourage them to work with international companies in a safe space, like maybe in an IFC, maybe in a pilot. I would also encourage them to have a dedicated center of excellence in which they ring fence some parts of their business and expose it to Web3 infrastructure with local and international and domestic partners to help kind of create that. Don't try to create it yourself. Is my opinion, unless you have been doing it for someone else elsewhere for many years. And then finally is allowing your staff to be retrained, giving them the room and the the motivation and the encouragement to upskill in both Web3, AI, automation, and anything that's related to frontier technologies, and then get it certified so they can use it elsewhere.
Yeah, great advice, I think. And about like local builders. So I think with you have a lot of experience with the IFC and the sandbox. So how do you think about this model in Vietnam right now? We know like the IFC in Da Nang draw a lot of attention from like not just the local builders, but also the other partners from overseas. But like, how do you think about it? Like, what will be the opportunities, the obstacles, what people should do to actually build something that meaningful to bring to real life values?
I think just me assessing the market and the IFCs and the purpose behind the IFCs. I think it's quite difficult for brand new startups to come up and disrupt.
Right.
I think the systems in place in Vietnam are very established. The players are not easily movable for many reasons. And so the IFCs really only provide one of the only venues for innovation for that kind of disruption. And so I would encourage those builders to partner with like us, our foundation, and leverage the international community, basically our companies and portfolio companies within our grantee network that want to enter Vietnam and build together inside those IFCs. And then there's a few common themes. Like it's payments, tokenization,
right.
And potentially a couple of other areas around loyalty and identity and whatnot. And so if these are things that local builders want to be part of, they don't have to reinvent it themselves. And a lot of this already exists around the world. It's about adapting it to very specific problem statements that Vietnam has, whether it's economic diversity, sustainability, air pollution, electrification, education. I mean, all of these things only the local citizens know. And inside the IFCs, it's opportunities to use technology to solve these problems.
I got a very interesting question from like a builder I met in the builder community event. So he's considering pursuing like two different ideas.
Yeah.
The very first one would be the thing that he already had experience in Web2 industry in Vietnam. He already has some call like success before. So he think if he pursue that idea, he will like actually be successful with that idea. But the other way that he see an interesting idea from like a different region, and he think like this one would draw a lot of attention from Web3 users, and he considering like pursuing like which one he should build in Vietnam. So I think not just him, but it will be the question for like some local builders right now in Vietnam.
You mean in terms of choosing an international audience that can scale, or Vietnam?
Yeah, the success rate between like those two ideas. That the one I have success in the part I have already.
Look, I think if you're a builder and you want to do that, the next question is, do you need investment to do it? Right. So if you need investment, then it needs to be investable. I wouldn't recommend anybody go into a venture that they don't truly believe in, just in terms of focusing on something to build, if the end game or the exit strategy is not possible. So my question for him or her would be, what is your exit strategy? What do you want to get as an outcome? Do you want to help society, or do you want to build a startup that can be acquired? And that really changes whether or not I would recommend them to build one or the other. But honestly, if it's assuming that it's for betterment of society, right? I truly believe that local use cases that make sense for Vietnam, led by Vietnamese builders, will probably gain way more success than a Vietnamese startup attempting to build something and take it abroad at this point in time. I would encourage the focus to be more on how, because that's the special advantage right now for builders in Vietnam. So they should leverage that capability and that timing.
So do you think that they might get what kind of support from Hedera Foundation? Like I see, like they see like the presence of like a foundation in Vietnam. There are more and more presence from you guys. So what would be the support that they should expect from you?
Yeah. So earlier I said commerce, capital, community.
Community.
So community is really marketing, right? Marketing, support, promotion, etc. We have a very, very established network of partners within and integrations within the Hedera ecosystem, all the way from exchange listings to custodial integrations, both native and non-native aspects of our network. We also have access to liquidity providers, market makers, service providers, etc. The whole gamut, right? Wallets, infrastructure. So that is basically, in my honest opinion, the most valuable support that builders in Vietnam would receive. The next amount of support obviously would be in funding, right? Funding, whether it's a good or a bad thing, funding in Vietnam, dollar for dollar, goes much further. And so, for example, as myself, as representative of the foundation's efforts to grow ecosystem, grants given out to very, let's say, ambitious or very good projects, we can do more and more of those versus in other jurisdictions that probably have a higher cost structure or compliance requirement for receiving support. So funding is another thing as well. And then, so commerce, capital, and community. So the commerce piece is basically providing markets within the Hedera ecosystem, whether it's our DeFi ecosystem or our on-chain financial ecosystem, or even our marketplaces when it comes to our engagements with ESG infrastructures and whatnot. So it's really providing that kind of platform and marketplace for builders to have access to global liquidity in international markets. And our deep integration into Web 2.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, institutional background, yeah.
So would you alter that support package? I would say, as I know you and Hedera are working and consulting some corps and banks in Vietnam. So would you alter that package to institutionals?
You mean institutions in Vietnam?
Yeah. I think it should be different, right? Like,
interesting enough, Hedera has recently launched a new partner program, a strategic partner program, almost like a sub-tier of our council membership. And enterprises that have a eagerness to build on Hedera with real-world use cases will receive recognition and support from our ecosystem, more than just like a grant, for example, right?
Right.
And I think that's a very good channel to, let's say, engage Vietnamese conglomerates, Vietnamese large corporations, Vietnamese listed companies. When it comes to how Hedera can actually support. So I wouldn't say like the package is different. I'd say it's the same, but different. It's really about what the use case is and what type of activity would be put onto the Hedera network by that corporation.
So I'm curious, like, what would be the use case for institution that you see would it will be like the I think easiest way. I mean, like to be practical right now, except the exchange.
I mean, to be honest, selfishly speaking, in 2026, I hope that more and more enterprises, institutions, and corporates will adopt a treasury strategy, a digital-first treasury strategy, and that will be how stablecoins became kind of the late year meta for 2025. Will be the entry point for a lot of corporations. It will do a stress test for many of them, accounting treatments on how to actually manage stablecoins within their operations, treasury and other type of, let's say, financial optimizations and operations of their cash flows with potentially DeFi exposure. And then also trade finance, like operations management, procurement, risk related, insurance and whatnot, all with digital infrastructure or crypto related infrastructure with stablecoins. And then finally, once you have all that, then you can really delve into RWAs properly. RWAs, it could be in the form of goodwill, intellectual property. It could be in hard assets. It could be in product services, ESG related activities. I mean, it goes all the way across to issuing bonds, debt, again, looping back to the treasury strategy. So I think the treasury strategy is a starting point for many corporations in 2026.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so, Jeff, what would be your goal for you and Hedera in Vietnam and I think in the region for the next 3 years? I'm curious about that.
Well, I would say for the Hedera Foundation, right? So for the Hedera Foundation, again, our goal is to support builders, projects, grow the ecosystem, do integrations, and then have recognition of on-chain activities on the Hedera network. And so if you're looking at Vietnam's ambitions to build an IFC, Vietnam's ambitions to optimize and modernize its infrastructure, both on the public sector and the private sector, to support things like AI and ministry-related citizen services, digital identity, KYC, notarization, financial infrastructure. I think it's very well aligned with the approach that Vietnam has with what we can offer and what the foundation can offer. And first and foremost is our open source components to go into the building blocks of what those IFC sandboxes would look like. Long term, our community and experience doing this for in other jurisdictions as well, bringing in those tokenization workflows, those institutional frameworks, the best practices that we have in governance to Vietnamese companies that are looking to have a decentralized approach to their businesses. I think that's where I'd see 2-3 years of what Hedera into Vietnam looks like. If you ask me what Vietnam outbound for Hedera looks like, again, the engineering base here is very, very strong. And the position and the situation of Vietnam is very strategic. So from the foundation's perspective, in terms of Asia Pacific growth, Vietnam is a launch pad, basically. Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, basically all of the central Southeast Asian nations in the middle as well, all the way to as far south as Australia, India, north to China, Japan, and Korea, as well as potential corridors together with the Central Asian nations like Kazakhstan. Right, there's many different reasons why countries trade with Vietnam, and we want to be part of that growth story from an on-chain perspective.
So, what would be your message for, I think, for local builders and for institutions if they are looking for ways to maybe finding collaboration opportunities with you guys? What would be the...
I mean, for corporations, do a self-readiness assessment. Is your organization cloud first or cloud native?
Yeah.
Is your data relatively clean? And then experiment with a center of excellence inside your own corporation or enterprise to adopt Web3. It's basically a hygiene test, right? Before you start getting into crazy things like tokenization and whatnot. The worst thing you want is you start and you realize you need to fix a lot of things. For builders, with artificial intelligence and assistive development tools, building has never been easier. Product ownership and the next generation of, let's say, leaders should be more well-rounded in terms of technology and business applications. So learning and understanding how the world works today, and then orchestrating either, if you want to call it, automation points, and then integrating that with a blockchain would be a good starting point for developers. Of course, you need to develop, build, and do code. So the foundation is always here to support with that, with either our engineering base or some of the tools and SDKs that we have. But my recommendation is the days of a full stack developer being extremely critical for the success of a project. Those are not necessarily the most important aspects anymore. And the most important aspects is, do you have product market fit? Do you have a strategy for example, TGE strategy, a sustainable growth strategy? Those are the things that I think that the foundations like myself are actually looking for.
Okay, I see. So thank you, Jeff, for sharing valuable insights in the regional development focus on Vietnam, and sharing and giving such valuable advice for corps and also local builders. And unfortunately, we run out of time for today's podcast. So see you in the next episodes, and hope we'll have great conversation next time. Thank you everyone for your attention to this episode. We're looking to see you again.
Thanks so much for having me.
If you would like to hear more from us, please subscribe to the channel Hedera Vietnam's Builder Hub on X, YouTube, or LinkedIn. And if you are founders, builders, and institutions looking for the collaboration opportunities, please feel free to reach out to Varmeta and Hedera Foundation. Thank you.